this because you're doing retrospective data review.
Okay.
So interprofessionals or DDS faculty came in already and graded a session using a rubric, and you have that, right? You
Right.
use the oral communication rubric, which we usually use when assessing presentations. What you just have to make clear is what session, what type of retrospective data, whether you are going to select retrospective data for 3 years, for 1 year, or just for one session, right? So that the time period has to be clear.
Okay.
And then because you will start today writing up your method section and future direction and the budget. Okay, so this is pretty much done. You just have to revamp it a little bit. But then you're going to finalize this. So in your materials and methods section, you want to make sure that you have what class you are of the retrospective data of which class you're assessing. Because that's what you will need for your ILB approval. Because you will need an ILB approval to look at retrospective data. Okay? So just try to rewrite this, and the aim that you have here, it's your objective. Okay, so don't confuse objectives and aims, because objective is really generalized, the purpose of your study. Aim is very, very specific in what you're going to evaluate. For example, aim 1 will be to look at the agreement of DDS faculty and other interprofessionals that are not dentistry related, right? That might be in assessing our presentations. And your null hypothesis should be related to your specific aim. And your null hypothesis there will be no agreement, or alternatively there will be agreement. Okay, so make sure this is your general one, the effectiveness. And then you go to specific aim 1. Some studies only have one specific aim, which is okay. But then I think you will have a little bit more. And then specifically 2 related to your aim, you want to write up your hypothesis. And then at the end, a little bit of a significant sentence that really shows that this is important. You have that. Okay? So you're good?
Yes.
So you will be able to continue and write out the method section. Okay?
Thanks.
Perfect.
And in terms of methods, you just mean like what we're using to experiment on? Like what we're using to collect the data? Statistic analysis? You know what I mean?
Yes. So in the method section, the statistical analysis has to be included, but the method section is what specifically you will be doing. Okay, so first in your methods, there should be, we will apply for ILB application to do retrospective data review. We will review data from the year what, from which class, right? Of interprofessional educators, how many assessors there were. Okay, and then we will be looking at the agreement. We will use the Excel spreadsheet, and we'll use what kappa coefficients or intra-class correlation to evaluate the agreement between those evaluators.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Thank
You
you.
good?
Yep. Thanks.
And if you have any questions, this is a good time to ask. So we'll go ahead with group 7. You're representing the whole group? Sure, I can do that. Okay.
Good job.
Yeah, go Kim.
Okay, so our aim is to create a set of instructions for the older, or not older, adults age 65 and older as far as oral hygiene goes. The objective is to identify the certain commonly missed questions based on a previous study that was done. And the significance is to target that demographic that is struggling for whatever reason that has been since overlooked.
So your aims, objective, and significance section, you started with the intro. The current standard, oral hygiene is geared towards a specific population, and blah, blah, blah. So this is your intro, which is good. As with the other group, you are a little bit confusing. Hello, group.
So sorry.
Join the group. Come closer. So here as well, the aims and objective is switched.
Okay.
Okay, so objective, your purpose is a general statement. Okay, and the aim that you have here, the aim for this research study is to create a focused set of instructions directed to all adults in 65. This is your overall objective of creating a focused instruction. Your specific aim 1 will be you're going to look at retrospective data as well that has been done and collect data on what was missed in terms of oral health knowledge in this specific population, right? That's specific aim 1. And then your specific aim 2 is based on the instructional pamphlet that you will be creating. You will be distributing it to adults older than 65 and see how they perceive the perception of this instructional pamphlet, of whether they feel that it was helpful, right? And you will have another set of survey that you're going to distribute with that pamphlet, correct? So you will create that pamphlet.
Oh, yes.
Yes. You will create that pamphlet and then we'll have it distributed to the older adults and have them read it, and then at the end you will have just a few questions, 1, 2, 3, 4. Was this helpful in increasing your knowledge? Was there information that you really did not know before? And was it user friendly, or was it easy to read, understandable? So those are just, because this is to create a little bit of, it's when a company sells something, they do a pilot marketing on a few sets of a population, of a cohort, and see whether this will be good for them. If there's a good response, then they target the whole population. That's what you are going to do. Select a little bit of a few pilot population to test whether the pamphlet that you have been creating is worthwhile to expand on. So you have your specific aim 1, looking at the knowledge that was missed, and your specific aim 2, distributing the survey and look at the perception. And your null hypothesis will be there is significant gap in knowledge among older adults in a certain area. Because if it's all dispersed, there's no certain area, right? So that will be your null hypothesis. The second null hypothesis will be there will be the new pamphlet that will have a good perception, will be well perceived. Alternative will not be well perceived. Okay, and then you will have your significance. Okay, and then you can start writing up your methods based on what we discussed, what you will be doing. Good. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
And group 7, you will need IRB approval as well to look at retrospective data and also to distribute a survey to a small population of older adults. Okay, let's go ahead with group 6.
You got this. Oh, hello. Okay. So the title of our project is The Comparison of Residual Bacterial Contamination Between Dental and Hygiene Students on Pure Keys Keyboards in the East Wing Clinic at Loma Linda University. Probably won't be our final title because it's pretty long, so that's kind of in the works. Our aim is to consider and compare the differences in contamination between dental and hygiene students. Our objective is to assess residual microbial contamination of the operatory keyboards in order to evaluate infection control compliance between dental and hygiene students. And our significance is to see the difference in aseptic technique process between dental students and hygiene students. Knowing the outcome of the study will help us continue to maintain good hygiene in the dental clinic at LLUSD. Our null hypothesis is that if the aseptic technique is correct, there will be no difference. So we're going to try, that's our null hypothesis. And
This study was done before, right? It's, I think, pretty much the third year that this is being done. And during the first and second year, the protocol for DDS students and dental hygiene students was different. Is it currently different?
it's still different because they're allowed to use dirty gloves on the keyboards, and
Okay.
hygiene students are not.
Really?
Yes.
Still, it's still like that.
That's what Ms. Lennon said, but I haven't confirmed with any dental people about
Yes, perhaps you
Yeah.
confirm
that. Confirm that.
with dental students, but also with Elisa Wilson.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah. Mhm.
whether this is correct, whether there is
Yes.
a difference,
Mhm.
right? Because if there's no difference, if there's no difference in the protocol, then you would just compare the DDS students versus dental hygiene
Yeah.
students and using the same protocol,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And what was the result of the study that compared DDS and dental hygiene students with different
We haven't
protocols?
gotten that. We don't have that. We haven't seen that research project. We've seen the other one that compared the two types of keyboards, but we haven't seen the one that we're doing now. So we haven't had access to that yet.
So Ms. Lennon has all of these projects because that will be very important for you to know what your former what the former groups or what the former student groups have done. That's
Yeah.
very helpful because the reason that you're doing this first year, second year, and third year is to really make it stronger and also overcome the weaknesses that were pointed out because all projects, year one, year two, had significant weaknesses so that it was not strong to really come to a conclusive result or conclusion. So your group, since it's third year, you have to look at study number 1, 2, and see how you can improve on it and make sure that you discuss this with Elisa as well to confirm it, and you talk to Dr. Ahmed about the lab, so everything is good to go?
Yes, we're going to have him train us in the microbiome lab this week.
Okay, that sounds good. Perfect. Great. Okay.
I think we're all
Group 5.
Just read off the read off.
Okay, do you
All right.
know rock, paper, scissors?
All right, so our proposal is the effects of aloe vera water and honey versus Biotine in reducing the effects of dry mouth in patients. And so basically, we're going to be testing like if whether all natural products such as aloe vera, honey, can provide an alternative to patients who have xerostomia, because not a lot of patients like to have like alternatives than just using Biotine. So we think that by using all natural products, it'll be like another method of controlling xerostomia.
Okay, your group did the AIMS objectives. You started with the background, which is good.
So we talked a little bit about
And
xerostomia.
you already have your materials and methods,
Yeah.
which is impressive. Good. And you completed your future direction. This is good. This, yes. I'm really proud because I'm showing this to everybody because
There we go. Pay attention.
yes, this is pretty much finished the proposal. That's good. But what I would like you to really do, this is really good. As I was reading it yesterday, I was really pleased. What I would like you to do though is have a stronger justification of why you're comparing Biotine, of why you're comparing aloe vera, honey, water to Biotine. Biotine is the only product that is FDA approved to relieve dry mouth. So you have a strong justification because it's the only product that is FDA approved on the market. And then why are you using honey, aloe vera, and water? You have to just, if those are all natural products, which is good, and you also have to emphasize that you're really focusing on natural products that are available. But for example, there is lemon, ginger, roots. It's very difficult even to pronounce the name, silica, sapphis, roots, right? Those are natural products as well, but why did you choose specifically aloe vera, honey, and water? That's very important that you justify these, because these are different criteria, right? The lemon and the roots that I mentioned, and the ginger, is to really stimulate saliva production, but you are really using something that will coat the mouth to make it feel wet,
Some
right?
of those products won't work if somebody has dysfunction with their
Salivary gland. So that I think I didn't see that. You have it in your background a little bit, but make it a little bit clear at the beginning.
So you want the justifications under background or?
Background is okay. It will be difficult to justify it in your AIMS section, but still in your AIMS section, you want to really focus that you're using natural products that are commonly known to help with dry mouth. Okay, so you did a good job in your methods. In your methods, you have to be a little bit more specific on how you would like to do it, because you cannot. And look up the Shalakombi scale, right? I think I mentioned that, what it is, so that the examiner can measure dry mouth. So it's a commonly used, very easy to use exam to check whether they have dry mouth, the subjects have dry mouth, and then it's very important to get the feedback about whether they have dry mouth or not. Okay, so both objective and subjective measurements of dry mouth should be incorporated. Okay, so just still work on the specifics of your materials and method section, and then you will also have to do IRB application. Okay? Okay, very good.
Thanks. Good job, Jessica.
Okay, let's have group 4. Okay, let me clarify that. in your template, you have your student signature and your faculty mentor signature, right? Some of the groups already put in the signatures. That is not needed for this assignment, for the previous assignment, and the assignment that is due on Friday. You don't need signatures, but it is good for you to send it to your mentors so that your mentors know how far you have been progressing and whether they can give feedback during the process. Your final exam, which is in September, is the submission of your final proposal. The final proposal is based on the feedback that you received during the presentation from faculty and your friends, and then feedback that you receive from your mentor. And then your mentor can sign off that this is pretty much the final proposal. And that needs a signature. So for your final exam, I need the signature within the document that you will be uploading. But for this assignment and your next assignment that is due on Friday, I don't need signatures.
Okay, so as mentioned before, our group is going to be testing the incoming hygiene class off of their first radiology lab to see if an instructional video prior to their lab is going to improve or have an impact on their radiology lab grade. Our aim is to observe and to improve the diagnostic quality. So we're hoping that based off of our results, we can, Mrs. Withers can then implement this instructional video to next classes. And this is obviously important because this can have an effect on our learning in the future.
So you spread it out very well with your objectives, primary and secondary aims and significance. What is missing is your null hypothesis. Okay, so just make sure you add your null hypothesis. And in the proposals, rather than having these primary and secondary aims, objective and significance, just create a paragraph, write it up. Okay, I don't want to see it separately. Yes, everything so that it flows, so that the reader can read it. Okay, so you don't have to have primary aims and then the semicolon, secondary aims. Remove those. You just start out with the introductory.
So is it kind of abstract?
Kind of an abstract, but everything should be written up as paragraphs. So here you start up with a little bit of an intro of how students learn differently now. So they prefer visuals and dynamics in the classroom, right? That would be your introduction. And then you can start, therefore, the objective of this study is to create an instructional video. Our first specific aim is this, our second specific aim is this, and the null hypothesis is this and this. And then you have your significance already, okay? So it's just moving a little bit, elaborating a little bit more, and then it's good to go. And although studies that are performed in the classroom usually don't need IRB approval because it's part of the class, but since you're going to use this data to present, you need IRB approval. Okay, so make sure that you will be needing IRB approval as well. And you started with the background and rational already, and it read really well. Okay? So with your method section, you know, because you know that you will be using the incoming class, and how many students are involved, how you will be splitting these students into two groups, right? And that the group that did not receive instructional video at the end will receive it, so that the educational outcome is pretty much the same, right? and what grades you will be collecting. These grades will not go into the official grade, right? So everything has to be written out in your method section. Okay. It's not blinded. It's not blinded because students will receive instructional video or not, so they know, right? Will you say that you will grade them after this? Or will they just...
We were just going to show the video to them right before radiology lab.
Mhm.
So half the class would know that they're not video.
And they don't know what purpose of
So we're just going to tell them it's like an instructional video for the lab.
And that's important to clarify also with IIB, because usually, I know this is a classroom, and I told you this is tricky because it's part of the classroom, but you cannot just say, oh, you will do instructional video, and you will not, because everything has to be explained a little bit to the group
Well, we will give it to the other students just at a later date.
at a later date. Yes. So,
Okay. Well,
the exact name of this design you can really determine at the end where you know what you will be exactly doing, and then based on the write-up on what you're proposing, Amy, Casey, you can ask Amy, Casey, what do we have to do? Do we need a script to describe what we are going to do, or can we just be very casual about it? Because if it is kind of a study, then Amy, IIB really wants the exact script that you will be using to distribute or explain about the study. Okay, but this might not be even a study.
so
I
we
mean,
should get in
that
contact.
needs this ILD. Yes, get in touch with Amy Casey, but before getting in touch, you want to make sure you write up the methods as you would really exactly like to be, and then you can discuss it with Amy. Okay, she might say this is not something that is needed. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, group 3.
So the title of our proposed research project is The Effects of Formula Feeding versus Breastfeeding on Childhood Caries. Our research is mostly looking into not the direct effect on caries, but more on the risk of caries. So I'll just recap. The aims of this research we will begin to conduct from now until March is focused on understanding and assessing the effects of bottle feeding versus formula feeding on the primary dentition of children, starting from the eruption of the first tooth in infancy up until the eruption of the first permanent tooth around age of 6. The objective of this research is to determine if there is a significant effect on oral pH and oral bacteria due to baby formulas or breast milk, and which of the two has higher influence on the introduction of dental caries. Another objective of this study is to inform new mothers of habits that contribute to early childhood caries and help them prevent and or minimize the risk factors for their child. The significance of this research is to lessen the epidemic of early childhood caries in a population that is unaware of the importance of dietary habits before and during the child's stages of primary dentition development. There is great.
No, it's
Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to add it.
Yes, you don't have to read the background, but this group also, background is almost there. Materials and methods is almost completed. And future directions, right? So you're really working diligently, which is really good. In your aim section, based on what we discussed, do you think you can leave it like this, or what do you have to change based on all the comments that you made? What is missing in your aims and objectives section?
Oh, the null hypothesis.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so our null hypothesis, yeah, we forgot to.
So that has to be added.
Okay, yeah, so we forgot to add that on there as a copy. But our null hypothesis is that there's no difference between breast milk and formula milk in influencing the risk for caries.
Overall, I think this is a very ambitious project because I was reading it and I really like your thoughts and what you would like to do. My only concern is whether you can do everything that you are writing up here. So I would really talk with your mentors because just looking at the first part, at the pH, right, and bacteria is huge. And then additionally, you want to look at new mothers and inform them, right? I saw that perhaps that will be something in the future that you will be doing, but if it's something that you will be doing in the future, it should not be included in the aim section. Because this is exactly what you're going to do. If you're going to do 2 projects, because I see it as 2 projects, then it's very ambitious. If it's something that you think, the education of new mothers, if this is something that you plan to do in the future, then it should go into future directions. So you have to make clear what you will be doing in the fall. And I'm emphasizing this to all of you. Please write up the project because the aim section that I read is pretty good for all 8 groups. You just have to now write up the materials and methods, and based on that, I can see whether this is feasible or not. And if it's not feasible, I will just tell you just in advance so that you don't get overwhelmed in the fall of what everything you have to propose, and then you have only three months to complete it. Okay, so make sure that you talk to your mentors, even your first project, with looking at infants and collecting whether their pH is acidic or not. That will be very tricky to receive ILB approval. So think about it. Perhaps the second part, just education, will be more feasible because working with infants, as Amy Casey came in, right, and discussed the ILB approval process, but ILB is there to really protect humans in general, the population, but then they really focus on the vulnerable population. And vulnerable population include infants, children, students, right, prisoners, that are really vulnerable. And it will be very difficult to receive ILB approval on that. So make sure that you rethink of what you will be exactly doing, and then write up the method section based on that. Okay, and that's very important to formulate. And that's why we are really talking about your directions, your aims, your specific aims, and your general purpose, so that we know what you will be doing. And therefore here as well, your general purpose is good, but then specific aim 1 and 2, or just aim 1 is really what you will be doing. Okay, so rethink a little, because I really liked the way your thought process was on the importance and the significance, but then it's really a huge project. And then another thing that I would like to point out to everybody, in your background, the background and rationale for the study, that's pretty much your literature review. The articles that you have been reading and that you are going to cite. So everything in here needs to be cited. So here you cited conducted by Al-Shari, which is good, right? Have something like a number, citation number, will be pretty much your first reference, right? And number 1 goes into your references or bibliography as number 1 reference, right? So everything should match. And pretty much all of your references that you will be citing, if you have 6 references in your bibliography, all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, should be somewhere in the background and should have the numbers attached to it so that I can see exactly which reference you use for specific statement that you are going to do. Okay? Okay, very good.
Okay. Yes, you got this. So our proposal is the dental professional perspection of Botox treatment for TMD and bruxism. And we will try to do surveys that will be distributed to dental students, dentists, dental hygiene students, and the hygienist here. We're gonna be asking them what's their knowledge about using therapeutic Botox for TMD and bruxism, if they are confident in using it, and if they think we should do like a course like LA local anesthetic course but for Botox at the same time, and it will be only distributed for the school here. And the null hypothesis, and correct me if we're wrong, we said there is no knowledge, attitude, or confidence toward providing therapeutic Botox treatment in the dental profession.
Among the different dental professionals.
Among? Okay. And what else? What else do you have to answer?
Okay. So, for your aims, objective, and significance, I don't see a little bit of an introduction why you're doing this, right? So, perhaps you can say Botox treatment has become a very popular treatment in treating this and this and this. However, we don't really know, there's little knowledge on the perception of use of Botox among different oral health professionals. Right? So this would be a little bit of an introduction, and therefore the purpose of our study is to distribute a survey to evaluate the knowledge, attitude, and perception towards the use of Botox in the dental office among different oral health professionals. We will be looking at DDS, dental hygiene, and what? I don't know how many categories. DDS and dental hygiene, right?
Yeah.
And then our null hypothesis will be that the knowledge, null hypothesis number 1, the knowledge is the same among these two groups.
Oh, so we have to have like 3
And then yes, and then
Okay.
our second null hypothesis will be that the attitude towards it will be the same, and or perception will be the same. So you're going to address specifically null hypotheses that you will do your statistical analysis on. Okay, and then you feel that this is very significant in determining the future incorporation of Botox treatment and even education, whether there is a need for further education in our dental setting. So this will be pretty much the significance. And then in your method section, if you have a survey that you're going to distribute, all the survey questions have to be in the method section. Okay, so you have to finalize your survey questions in the method section, because if you're applying for IRB approval, because you will need IRB approval as well, the survey as is, questions number 1 to what, all the demographics you will be collecting have to be in the survey. And once IRB approves of this survey, the questions cannot be changed. If you try to change questions, then you have to do an amendment again for IRB approval. So everything should be done in order to do an IRB application. That's why IRB application takes really a long time, because it takes a long time to finalize our questions. And those are important. The questions are one of the most important part in surveys. So if you have surveys, make sure that you create your questions, focus on what you will be exactly asking, and don't do repetition. Sometimes we put in repetitions to make sure that it is valid, that the respondents are consistent. So there might be a few repetitions, a couple of repetitions, but not too many. Okay? Good. Thank you. And this group as well did a great job. They started with the background, materials and methods, and future direction. And the budget. That's what I wanted to also touch upon a little bit. In the budget, you can use ink and paper, office supplies that can be included in the budget, but compensation for subjects cannot be included. So you cannot ask for gift cards, or you are very generous. You said brown mix. You're going to.
I meant to put brownie mix, sorry.
Baked goods. Yes, baked goods. This is very good, but you cannot put that in your budget. So any compensation, we cannot put compensation in the budget. But
Okay.
everything that you put in, paper, ink, paper clips, pen, everything, those you can really add into your budget. Yes.
How creative can we be with our budget?
I thought I had something on Canvas where we talk about the regulations of budget, what can be included and what cannot. I will double check. If I have it not on the budget, I will post it today so that you can see what you can allocate in your budget.
Like meetings at 12 o'clock? Would meetings count as a budget expense?
You can meet, but there's no expense associated with meeting at 12. Is there?
I don't know, is there?
No, meals.
Like transportation?
Meals is not
Or-
included. We did allow transportation and gas fee for projects that had to really go outside to distribute service. So we allowed gas and parking for those projects. So I will post that today so that you know a little bit more of what can be included in the budget. Any questions? Okay, let's go to our last group. Group 1.
Yeah, Kevin.
Right.
Kevin.
Hey. So David, how are you doing today?
Okay. You good?
We're good?
You can go ahead.
Okay.
Title.
So our title is the accuracy of blood pressure readings in noisy versus quiet environments. We still don't have a faculty.
Huh?
We still don't have a faculty member.
Uh-huh.
Our hypothesis is, our question is, does a noisy setting affect the accuracy of the blood pressure reading when compared to a quiet environment? Hypothesis, due to the noise, the blood pressure reading can be altered and inhibit the clinicians from effectively hearing the Korotokov sounds. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Yeah, what AJ said. Objectives: to determine the accuracy of blood pressure readings in quiet versus noisy environments and to minimize error in the clinic setting. Significance is the clinic can be a noisy environment, and if taking blood pressure readings in a noisy environment does affect the accuracy, some standard error must be accounted for.
Okay.
So short and simple.
So I understand the dilemma of your group with your main mentor not available at this time point. So I understand that, and that's why I also, and I'm still following up with Miss Marshall, Miss Armstrong to really get it going for you. It's a slow process because I don't receive prompt feedback and replies. But I think your group will manage well. Okay, so let's look at the positive side. But I sent you the abstract or some kind of information that was done previously, correct?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you read it?
Yes.
So what was the previous project about?
Yeah.
Christian said he has something to do.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay, let me just
Forgive him,
Okay,
please.
so it's early in the morning, so that's okay. But what I would like you to do here, you have your question, hypothesis, objectives, and significance. As mentioned to the other group, I don't need those in semicolons, right? I want a paragraph, a written paragraph. But you could start with an introduction about the importance of blood pressure measuring, blood pressure in the dental setting, and how different noise levels in the dental setting could affect the accuracy of blood pressure readings, which is very important, right? We need accurate blood pressure readings. And so therefore your objectives will be to evaluate blood pressure readings at different noise levels and compare those readings. Your specific aim one is you will evaluate one in a noisy, and you have to be very specific of what your definition of noisy is. And in a quiet environment, you also have to have a definition of a quiet environment. So that has to be very specific. And then your null hypothesis will be that there will be no difference in the accuracy of blood pressure measurements, whether it's noisy or quiet. Your alternative hypothesis will be that it will be different. And your significance will be pretty much that based on your results, it will give us more direction and guidance of the proper setting when taking blood pressure measurements in the dental setting. Okay, because when you go to your family doctor, the first thing that they do is measuring the weight and blood pressure, and pretty much it's in a quiet environment, right? But our dental setting is different, especially in our educational environment. Everything is pretty noisy. So do we keep them in this noisy environment, or do we have to really create the setting in the dental educational setting to have a little bit of privacy and noise levels that are further down to create better blood pressure measurements? Okay, so you pretty much have what you would like to do, and then you know in the methods of how you can accomplish this based on the past study that has been done, right? So you can write up the method section. You will need direction from your mentor, but I think the write-up is feasible. Okay, so you will be able to do it, and then think about your future directions. This as well needs IRB approval, right? And think about the budget that you will be needing. Okay? Mm-hmm. Good. Okay.
Thank you.
I think all 8 groups, as you saw, all of you have really interesting topics. Do you agree on that? And it's very interesting to see every year that every group has a different interest, different directions, different approach, and that makes it very, very fun to do. So since you all know what each group will be doing, this is really helpful to just give support to each group, because some of the groups will need your help, and some of the groups need the help of your junior class. So I think it's important to be supportive of each other. And today we went through all the 8 proposals focusing on the AIM section. All of you pretty much did great job in doing it. You just have to reorder, reword so that it is really clear what you will be doing. You can start writing up your background and your method section today in class. If you want to leave and work as a group, focus somewhere else, that's fine with me. I will be here, so we'll take a break. I will be here to address some questions that you may have in writing up your proposal. But we will resume next week. I will have a session similar as today, where we will be going through your whole proposal together as a group, and then we will see whether this will be a feasible project that you can do in the fall, and we will start writing up your IRB application, and we'll also create your PowerPoint that you will need to present the following week. Okay, let's take a break, and I will be here to those who have questions on your grades, assignments, or on the proposal.
Let me turn it off and
What do you say?
I'm gonna ask her what our second aim should be.
I transferred everything to the template.
I saw it.
Oh, okay.
I saw it. The second aim, though, you see my aim?
I'm back for the math. Huh? You see it? Oh, I thought they were solved it.
But then you will have better justification saying that you did
Wait, are we going already?
and then
It's class is over? Really?
I'm trying to see if we need to know. She's saying that there's more.
great.
Oh my gosh.
What do you think?